TSA just banned these, and travelers are missing flights because of it. TSA's banned and restricted items list is not static. It updates through policy bulletins, new threat assessments, and technology changes that the agency does not broadly publicize to travelers. In 2026, a wave of updated enforcement guidelines has put 7 everyday items directly in the crosshairs of checkpoint officers at airports nationwide. And the travelers getting caught are not smugglers or bad actors. They are ordinary people who packed what they always pack, walked up to the scanner, and watched an officer walk away with something they paid real money for. Here is exactly what those 7 items are, and why each one is now a problem. Item number 7, certain portable Bluetooth speakers. Your travel speaker just became one of TSA's most flagged carry-on items. Portable Bluetooth speakers have become standard travel companions, compact enough for a carry-on, useful at hotels, beach destinations, and short-term rentals, and seemingly harmless from a security perspective. In 2026, that assumption is creating real checkpoint problems that travelers are encountering without warning. The issue is twofold. First, modern portable speakers contain lithium batteries, often large-capacity cells integrated into the speaker body in a way that makes their watt-hour rating unclear without the original packaging. TSA's updated lithium battery enforcement, which tightened considerably in 2025, requires officers to assess whether any lithium-powered device exceeds the 100 watt-hour carry-on threshold. Speakers that don't display their battery specifications clearly on the device itself are flagged for secondary screening and, in some cases, confiscated when the watt-hour rating cannot be confirmed on-site. Second, and more significantly, the internal component profile of a modern portable speaker, a dense cylindrical or rectangular battery cell surrounded by magnets, circuit boards, and in some cases a passive radiator, produces an X-ray image that checkpoint officers are trained to scrutinize carefully. The imaging profile is ambiguous in ways that trigger secondary review at a high rate, particularly with the updated CT scanning systems now operational at the majority of major U.S. hub airports. What most people don't realize is that the speaker itself isn't prohibited. The combination of battery ambiguity and X-ray profile complexity is what creates the checkpoint problem. Carrying your speaker's original packaging, which displays the battery specification, resolves the watt-hour question instantly. Without it, you are relying on the officer's ability to look up your specific model during a busy checkpoint operation, which does not always happen quickly or favorably. Bluetooth speakers create a battery and imaging problem simultaneously. The next item creates a completely different kind of problem, one that has nothing to do with what it contains and everything to do with what it looks like under a scanner. Item number 6, weighted fitness accessories and resistance tools. Your travel workout gear is flagging checkpoint scanners nationwide. The rise of travel fitness culture has put a specific category of items into carry-on bags that TSA checkpoint officers are increasingly flagging in 2026. Weighted fitness accessories, resistance tools, and compact exercise equipment that travelers pack to maintain workout routines on the road. These items are not prohibited, but they are generating secondary screening at rates that are surprising travelers and slowing down checkpoint lanes at gyms adjacent departure times. Weighted jump ropes, particularly those with metal ball bearings in the handles, produce X-ray profiles that require manual review. Resistance bands with metal carabiner clips or weighted end attachments generate imaging flags based on the metal content and density profile. Compact massage tools, including metal-barreled foam rollers and percussion massager heads with dense internal components, all create imaging complexity that updated CT scanners flag for secondary assessment. The specific 2026 concern is the category of travel pull-up bars, the door frame mounted bars that use spring-loaded metal mechanisms. These have been specifically added to the enhanced screening list at several major U.S. airports because their internal spring and metal rod configuration produces an X-ray profile that requires confirmation before clearance. They are not banned, but they will reliably produce a secondary bag check every time they go through a scanner. But here's the twist. Resistance bands without metal components, fabric workout straps, and non-weighted fitness accessories clear checkpoints without issue. The metal content and density profile of the item is the trigger, not the fitness category itself. Auditing your travel workout kit for metal-heavy items before you pack eliminates the problem before you reach the checkpoint. Fitness accessories flag on density and metal content. The next item flags for an entirely different reason. And it's something so common that the confiscation numbers at U.S. airports in the first half of 2026 have genuinely surprised TSA's own reporting analysts. Item number 5, lithium battery cases and multi-battery charging organizers. Packing multiple batteries together just became one of the fastest ways to get flagged. Individual lithium batteries carried within their devices, phones, laptops, cameras, have always been the standard carry-on model that TSA's rules were built around. What 2026 enforcement has tightened significantly is the category of loose lithium batteries and multi-battery charging organizers, the compact cases and wallets that photographers, content creators, and tech-heavy travelers use to carry multiple spare batteries, charging cells, and power management accessories in one organized unit. The enforcement tightening stems from two converging factors. The first is a series of in-flight lithium battery thermal events in 2024 and 2025. None catastrophic, but sufficient to prompt ICAO and FAA updated guidance that TSA is now actively implementing at checkpoints. Loose lithium batteries outside of devices are specifically called out in updated 2026 checkpoint bulletins as requiring clearer compliance verification than previous screening cycles demanded. The second factor is that multi-battery cases, when X-rayed, produce dense, complex imaging profiles. Multiple cylindrical cells packed tightly together, often alongside metal contacts, wiring, and charging circuitry. That imaging profile requires the officer to verify that each individual cell falls within the 100 watt-hour carry-on limit, that no cells are damaged or showing signs of swelling, and that the total battery quantity in the bag is within acceptable limits for the flight. What most people don't realize is that there is a quantity consideration beyond watt hours. Passengers are generally limited to 2 spare lithium batteries exceeding 100 watt hours with airline approval. But even below the 100 watt-hour threshold, carrying large quantities of loose lithium cells in a single bag triggers enhanced scrutiny under 2026 guidelines. Photographers carrying 8 spare camera batteries need to understand that the quantity itself is now a screening trigger, not just the individual cell rating. Battery quantity and packaging are now active checkpoint triggers. The next item is something most travelers have never considered a security issue, and it's been sitting in medicine cabinets and travel toiletry bags for years without anyone flagging it until now. Item number 4. Aerosol sunscreen and large format SPF products. Your summer sunscreen is being pulled from bags at airport checkpoints right now. Sunscreen is not a new carry-on category. The 3-1-1 liquid rule has applied to liquid sunscreen for years, and most travelers have adapted to carrying travel-sized SPF in their court bag. What 2026 enforcement has specifically targeted is the aerosol sunscreen category, spray SPF products that have become the dominant format in the sun care market over the past several years, and the compliance gap between how travelers pack them and what the rules actually require. Aerosol sunscreen is classified as a pressurized container under TSA rules. In carry-on luggage, aerosol containers are subject to both the 3-1-1 liquid limitation and an additional pressurized aerosol restriction that limits each container to 3.4 ounces and prohibits certain aerosol formulations classified as flammable. Standard SPF aerosol sprays use alcohol-based carrier agents that are technically flammable. And while TSA has historically applied discretion on personal care aerosols at low volumes, updated 2026 checkpoint guidance has tightened that discretion. The specific confiscation pattern emerging at checkpoints, full-sized aerosol sunscreen cans, the 6-ounce and 8-ounce formats that are standard retail size at drugstores and beach shops are being pulled from bags at dramatically higher rates than in previous years. Travelers who picked up a can of spray SPF at a pharmacy before heading to the airport and dropped it in their carry-on without checking the size are the primary group encountering this confiscation. And this is where it gets frustrating. Aerosol sunscreen in sizes compliant with the 3.4-ounce limit does exist, but it's not the standard retail format. The 1-ounce and 2-ounce travel-sized aerosol SPF products that clear the checkpoint require advance purchase. They are not consistently available at airport retail locations, which means arriving at the checkpoint without them means going without or buying liquid SPF at the gate shop instead. Aerosol sunscreen is a size compliance issue with no on-site fix. The next item creates a different kind of problem, one that comes directly from a 2026 policy update that TSA issued without any public announcement to travelers. Item number 3, certain smart devices and GPS trackers. The small tracking device in your bag just became a TSA checkpoint issue. GPS trackers and smart location devices, Apple AirTags, Tile trackers, Samsung Smart Tags, and the expanding category of third-party GPS tracking accessories have exploded in travel popularity as luggage security tools. Attach one to your suitcase, drop one in your carry-on, clip one to your camera bag. In 2026, this category of device has generated a specific and growing checkpoint complication that manufacturers have not publicized and TSA has not broadly communicated to travelers. The device itself isn't the primary issue for most standard trackers. Small, lightweight, and with minimal battery capacity, they generally clear security without incident when encountered individually. The complication arises in 2 specific scenarios that are becoming increasingly common in 2026. The first is the anti-stalking detection systems now built into iOS and Android at the operating system level. Airport security zones where officers or law enforcement are present occasionally trigger alerts when multiple tracking devices are detected in proximity, a scenario that has produced secondary screening requests at several major hub airports when a traveler's bag containing multiple trackers passes through a checkpoint area with law enforcement personnel present whose devices detect the trackers as potential surveillance tools. The second and more significant scenario involves homemade or third-party GPS tracking devices, including aftermarket vehicle trackers that travelers sometimes repurpose for luggage monitoring. These devices, which often contain larger lithium cells, external antennas, and circuit configurations that differ from consumer-branded products, produce X-ray profiles that checkpoint officers flag for manual inspection and, in some cases, law enforcement consultation. What most people don't realize is that the consumer brand matters enormously at the checkpoint. An Apple AirTag or Tile tracker, immediately recognizable to most officers, clears with minimal friction. An unfamiliar third-party device with similar function but different physical appearance requires significantly more scrutiny under 2026 guidelines. Smart tracking devices create a recognition and battery problem at the checkpoint. The next item on this list is the one that has generated the most traveler outrage in 2026 because it's a product sold specifically for travelers, marketed at airport retail locations, and still being flagged at security. Item number 2, high-capacity portable chargers sold as travel products. The travel charger you bought at the airport is the one TSA is now confiscating. This is the item that has generated more traveler frustration in the first half of 2026 than anything else on this list, and the reason is specific, documented, and genuinely infuriating once you understand it. High-capacity portable chargers. The 20,000 milliampere hours, 26,800 milliampere hours, and 30,000 milliampere hours units marketed explicitly as travel products, sold in airport retail stores, and purchased by millions of travelers specifically for use during long-haul flights are being confiscated at TSA checkpoints because they exceed the 100 watt-hour carry-on lithium battery limit. Here is the math that most travelers have never done. A 26,800 milliampere hour portable charger operating at 3.7 volts contains approximately 99.2 watt hours, sitting just below the limit. A 27,000 milliampere hour unit at the same voltage exceeds 100 watt hours. A 30,000 milliampere hour unit reaches approximately 111 watt hours, exceeding the limit by 11% and requiring airline pre-authorization that most travelers have never obtained because they didn't know it was required. This completely changes everything about how you evaluate the large portable charger sitting in your bag right now. The marketing language, travel charger, airport essential, long-haul flight power bank, has no regulatory standing at the checkpoint. The watt-hour rating does, and the watt-hour rating is frequently not displayed prominently on the device or its packaging in a way that allows travelers to verify compliance without doing the conversion math themselves. And this is where it gets absolutely crazy. Airport retail stores in the US, UK, and Canada have been selling 30,000 milliampere hours portable chargers in their travel accessories sections throughout 2025 and into 2026. These products are marketed to travelers, sold in airports, and purchased as travel tools. And they are non-compliant with the carry-on rules of the airport selling them. The disconnect between retail availability and checkpoint compliance is one of the most glaring gaps in the current travel consumer information environment. What most people don't realize is that the confiscation is permanent. There is no on-site resolution. You cannot check the charger in your checked luggage. Lithium batteries are prohibited in checked baggage regardless of capacity. The officer takes it. You do not get it back. The $60 or $80 you spent on that charger is gone, along with the charging capacity you were counting on for a 14-hour flight. The compliant solution, portable chargers at or below 26,800 milliampere hours at 3.7 volts, verified to be under 100 watt hours, with the watt-hour rating displayed on the device. Several manufacturers now print watt-hour ratings prominently, specifically to address checkpoint compliance. Look for this before purchasing any portable charger for travel. The travel charger confiscation is the most preventable financial loss on this list, and the most common. The number one item is different in nature. It's not a technology product, not a battery issue, and not something most travel content has ever covered. It's an everyday personal care item that TSA's 2026 updated guidelines have specifically reclassified in a way that is catching thousands of travelers off guard every single week. Item number one, over-the-counter medications in non-original packaging and unlabeled pill organizers. Your weekly pill organizer is now one of the most flagged items at TSA checkpoints in 2026. This is the number one item on this list, not because of how dangerous it isn't dangerous at all, but because of how many travelers carry it, how consistently it generates checkpoint complications in 2026, and how completely avoidable every confiscation and delay associated with it is once you understand the updated enforcement environment. Weekly and monthly pill organizers, the multi-compartment plastic cases that organize daily medications and supplements by day and time, have been a standard travel tool for decades. Millions of travelers, particularly those managing multiple medications or supplement regimens, use them to avoid carrying multiple individual bottles and to maintain their daily routine while traveling. In 2026, the TSA's updated screening guidance for unidentified substances has placed these organizers directly in the enforcement crosshairs at a level that previous years did not reflect. The core problem is identification. A pill organizer contains loose tablets and capsules of varying shapes, colors, and sizes. Stripped of their original packaging, without labels, without child-resistant caps, and without any information linking the contents to a prescription or a specific medication category. Under updated 2026 checkpoint guidance, officers encountering unlabeled loose medications in a secondary bag check are now required to document and assess the contents before allowing them through. A process that can take anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes, depending on checkpoint staffing and the complexity of the organizer's contents. What most people don't realize is that this is not a new rule. It is a newly enforced one. The guidance requiring identifiable original packaging for medications has existed in TSA documentation for years. What changed in 2026 is the enforcement consistency. Updated officer training, combined with the higher sensitivity of CT scanning systems that now flag dense organic compounds for secondary review, has dramatically increased the rate at which pill organizers trigger manual inspection processes that were previously applied inconsistently. The confiscation scenario specifically arises when the officer cannot identify the contents and the traveler cannot provide supporting documentation. Loose tablets of unknown identity, particularly those that appear similar to controlled substance formats under visual inspection, are not cleared on the traveler's verbal assurance alone under the updated guidelines. Identification is required. In the absence of original packaging or a medication documentation card, the officer's only available resolution is confiscation of the unidentifiable contents or involvement of law enforcement for further assessment. And this is where it gets critical for senior travelers, travelers managing chronic conditions, and anyone on a complex medication regimen. These are exactly the travelers most likely to be using a weekly organizer and exactly the travelers for whom losing their medications at a checkpoint creates the most serious downstream health consequences. Missing doses of blood pressure medication, thyroid medication, or anticoagulants during a travel day is not a minor inconvenience. It is a medical management problem. The solution is straightforward and takes 10 minutes to implement before any trip. Carry a printed medication documentation card listing every medication in your organizer, its dosage, and your prescribing physician. Keep at least 2 or 3 days of medications in their original labeled pharmacy bottles in your carry-on alongside the organizer. Photograph your pill organizer alongside its original bottles before you leave home, creating a time-stamped record linking the loose pills to their source packaging. These 3 steps together create a documentation environment that resolves any checkpoint question about your medications instantly and completely. The broader pattern across all 7 items on this list is the same. TSA's 2026 enforcement environment is more consistent, more technologically capable, and less discretionary than the environment most travelers formed their packing habits in. Items that passed through checkpoints without issue for years are now being caught by scanners that are more sensitive, officers who are more consistently trained, and guidelines that are being applied more uniformly than ever before. The solution is not to stop traveling or to abandon the items that make travel more comfortable and manageable. The solution is to understand the specific compliance requirement each item carries, verify before you pack, and build the documentation habits that turn every potential checkpoint problem into a resolved question before it ever becomes a confiscation. If this video just saved you from losing something at your next checkpoint, or finally explained a confiscation that happened to you and never made sense, hit that like button right now and subscribe to Torque Talk for every travel rule update, airport security change, and checkpoint guidance shift we cover throughout 2026. Next video: 10 things TSA agents wish every traveler would do before reaching the checkpoint. The #1 tip takes 30 seconds to implement and eliminates the most common cause of secondary screening entirely. See you there.